Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I like to take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. Now, the subscribe button has Thor's hammer in space, and they want to hit some Thor's rods into the ground on their invading planet. All you have to do is click the like button to start the sequence of taking over the planet. Also, drop a planet emoji down below in the description. Anyways, onto the story. Doesn't Seem Fair, written by Illwood. Marine Captain James Dean suppressed a sigh as he checked his weapon for what would have to be, without a doubt, the millionth time. There were times when he regretted taking this posting, times when he missed the mud and darkness of real combat, when he missed the regulation uniform instead of the restrictive dress uniform he currently wore. But he had to admit, knowing that his child would have a father in years to come was a comforting thought. What wasn't a comforting thought was the strict posture of the ambassador before him. Kate Smith was rapidly approaching her 50s, but despite the high-stress job, was the very definition of aging gracefully. There were two types of lines a person's face developed as they grew older, those formed by smiling and those formed by frowning. Ambassador Smith had plenty of the former and almost none of the latter. James had wondered why that was the case, given her position. Smith had plenty of reasons to frown, until one day the ambassador had joined him and some of his fellow honor guard Marines for a game of poker. He had met plenty of people with a good poker face in his lifetime, but none could hold a candle to Smith. He supposed that's why her face had such few frown lines. She was used to hiding when she was losing. But that didn't mean that she didn't show it. A negotiation was a lot like a poker game, and Captain Dean had gotten very good at telling when the ambassador was bluffing. He had been her honor guard for a long time now, and had witnessed her advocate for and eventually ensure peace with nearly 24 different species by now. It wasn't that her mask of confidence or controlled tactics slipped. It was the exact opposite. When the ambassador's posture became perfect, when the mask was absolutely flawless, not betraying any other emotion, when she appeared completely and utterly in control, that was when she was bluffing, like she was bluffing right now. The captain's eyes drifted from his charge to sweep the room once more, increasingly on edge. The room was beautiful, a 6-sided hexagonal floor plan with a stained glass roof supported by 6 delicate marble arches. A marble desk was built into the middle of the room and flanked by 2 black metal chairs. The chairs looked beautiful, frames curving to create floral patterns, but could in no way, shape or form be considered comfortable. The 2 opposing sets of wooden doors allowed entry and exit from the room. It was these doors that Dean stood at attention by. His counterpart from the Maliocs standing perfectly opposite him. The Maliocs were an avian species. They reminded Dean of chickens, if chickens had 4 legs and 2 arms. On a technological level, they were more advanced than humanity, which for the larger galactic community was more or less par for the course. Tactically, however, their military left much to be desired, with most officers purchasing their commissions, much like English officers during humanity's Napoleon era. Humanity's past may be disturbingly bloody, but the lessons learned during the planet's more formative years had forged them into a well-oiled machine of war when required. It was problematic, then, that the Maliocs saw war as more of an honorable testing ground than a grinding horror humanity could so effectively turn it into. Like the chickens on James's grandfather's farm, the Maliocs believed in pecking orders. Humanity had fought and won a few wars since becoming a player on the intergalactic chessboard. But now the Maliocs wanted a turn. They wanted to see who was the rooster and didn't care how many would die to do so. Humanity saw an opportunity to reverse engineer advanced alien technology in a war. They were sure that they could win and didn't care how many would die to do so. Ambassador Smith, much to the pride of her honor guard, did. But it wasn't looking good for her. The Maliocs had already made up their minds. To her credit, Smith had known that from the start. It hadn't stopped her from trying to change the outcome for the past few grueling weeks. Dean gripped his rifle with his white knuckles. Damn ignorant fools, he thought. We'll outmaneuver them, we'll outnumber them, we'll drown them in blood. When the ambassador's mask finally slipped, when she finally slouched over in her uncomfortable chair, that's when Dean knew that it was over. He broke, crossing the room in 3 quick steps. The Malleus honor guard snapped his rifle up at the obviously aggressive approach. He was damn slow to do so. Clearly, his wallet was more well-equipped to handle his position than he was. His speed, or lack thereof, earned him a right hook to the face, or beak in the instance. James had seen plenty of both bar fights and combat. He was always intoxicated for the former, and usually sober for the latter. Of course, it's quite rare to punch someone during the course of a war in this day and age, so it surprised him how much his hand hurt afterwards. Perhaps this would have been a good time to be drunk, given that the court-martial he would surely receive might take such things into account. He doubled down, and as he jammed his knee into the chicken's stomach, it folded over. James wrenched his rifle from the bird's hands and reintroduced it to the bird's head. The thud the guard made as he dropped was as heavy as a large stone being thrown into a pond. James turned his back on the bird. It wouldn't be a threat for quite some time. James leveled the stolen rifle at the diplomat's head. It was only at that moment that he stopped to consider what he had done. Silence filled the room. All three people simply so shocked by the violent outburst that not one dared to utter a sound. Kate was the first to speak. James couldn't describe what he felt at that moment. All he could do was hold on for dear life as his stomach attempted a 9G maneuver in enemy territory. Kate was in control, her mask on, her back straight. "It's not very fair, is it?" she asked the Malleus ambassador. The ambassador said nothing, either understanding that the question was rhetorical or not sure how to answer if it wasn't. Kate continued, "One swift blow, one rapid and utterly audacious movement." Kate glanced up at James, and he suddenly felt very much like a schoolboy caught stealing the teacher's wedding ring, for no better reason than he was bored. "The deck stacked against you and every rule broken to do it. A victory that is nothing more than one person dead and another surviving. Hollow and black, like the sun that burns the world it once grew. Humanity is done with war. Our spirits were broken and our backs so very long ago. Now we play a far more serious game, annihilation. There are no rules when your entire species is riding on the back of an atrocities you're willing to unleash. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "You have no honor." The chicken's feathers were ruffled, in the very literal sense. James had the decency to suppress his laughter. It wasn't really that funny, but he was most certainly going to jail for this, if not executed. He was so very, very tempted to laugh. "We have no honor," Kate agreed. "You shall be wiped from the face of this existence. You are." The chicken was shaking in impotent rage, or perhaps simply adrenaline and fear. Had the ambassador been human, James was sure their face would have been as beet red as a mother walking in on a naked teenager for the first time. Whatever the chicken was about to say, Kate cut him off. "See? You do understand. We treat hostile action as a threat to our existence. We fight as if our backs are against the wall. We rage and we hope that if we fight hard enough, then one day... Oh, God, maybe one." Kate looked pained, the mask slipping for a moment, or perhaps a calculated expression. "One day, everyone will just leave us the hell alone. So, what will it be, Ambassador? A fight to the death? An honorless affair? Should we kick off this war here and now? Or are you unwilling to put your own neck on the line?" The downed guard groaned, attempting to sit himself up. James stopped there with another blow to the chicken's head. It was certainly one way to punctuate a speech. Surprisingly, the Malleus was watching the exchange, not with fear or anger, but interest. It was so hard to tell. Humans read one another so well, especially if they knew the other person. But reading an alien was always so strange. "It seems as if your soldier is more powerful than my own," the ambassador said after a long, long silence. "Does war really need more than one battle? More than two soldiers?" Kate asked, so sure of herself. James was sure that she was sure of herself. Wasn't she? He could see the real certainty through her poker face. At least he hoped that he could see the difference between her perfect face of confidence and her actual confidence. Ultimately, though, with her, it was all a guessing game. "A war needs blood," the chicken replied, looking expectantly at James. Kate followed suit. No words were said. She didn't need words to hear what he wanted, and he didn't need words to know what she needed. The alien's rifle trigger was strange, designed for a different style of hand. But a trigger was a trigger. The amateur guard looked up at James with the same face every single person or alien he had killed always wore. He fired. The weapon bucked in his hands, kicking back against his shoulder. The enemy before him died. He felt sick. It didn't seem fair. But neither did war. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.